Hi, and welcome to Two Souls, Episode 3. My name is George O'Mara. I'm here with my co-host, Mark O'Mara.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
I'm good.
That's good, man.
I'm good.
That's good. Chilling?
Not 5 a.m. good, but I'm good.
I get you there, yeah. 5 a.m. goods, it's like the promised land. Milk and honey. Milk and honey. We got a good show for you guys. You know, we've been doing some research on some interesting news topics. Got some stuff to follow up from last week. There's been some changes to one of our topics that we talked about, so that's pretty exciting. It's almost like they heard us, and they're like, "We hear you. We're gonna make some changes." Why don't we get into it? We'll get into the news, yeah?
Yeah.
How's that sound to you?
I think that's a good plan.
Yeah. All right. Excellent. So I'll start. Lords of the Fallen. Talked about this last week. Good game. A lot of promise. Got some issues. It sounds like Hexworks listened. So according to the patch notes on Steam, there's some pretty good changes coming. I think this is a good direction for the game. I think it gives a little more identity. I think it fixes some of the problem spots. So first off, New Game Plus. So there's a couple things that are being changed here. One of them is the progression. So as you know, in these games, you beat the game, it just, if you go and replay it, like you go into your save again, it goes right into New Game Plus. Generally speaking, harder enemies, bigger numbers, more challenge. So what they're going to give you the option for is now you can go into the next New Game Plus level, because usually it'll go like New Game Plus 1, 2, 3. You can choose to go into the new level, or you can just replay the current one that you're at, which is nice. Another big change is the vestiges. So in New Game Plus, the way it was on launch, like we talked about last week, was you get that one main hub vestige, and then all the other ones go away, and you got to master the terrain and all of that. So instead of removing all the vestiges, what they're going to do is have a few of them disappear in New Game Plus 1. Then New Game Plus 2, they'll remove a few more. And then on 3, it'll be like the way it is now, where it'll be just the main vestige, and then Adir's Shrine vestige, which is like that last boss. The modifier system for New Game Plus is also coming up. This I found pretty interesting, actually. I think this was pretty unique. They're going to be allowing you the opportunity to customize your vestiges. You're going to get like a hardcore mode that you can turn on or off with like a permadeath. And then you'll get item randomizers, enemy randomizers, and they're saying and more. So
that's we'll have to see what that more is.
It's pretty fresh. It's pretty fresh.
I think it's good.
Yeah. Enemy density. Now this is one of the things that we both drew ire with. So there's this leashing system. Basically says enemy spawns here, you run past, imagine an imaginary leash that's tied to you, and that leash is pretty long. So they're going to shorten that. So the further you get away, they'll chase you less, which is nice. Yeah, you're not going to have all these enemies chasing you.
You could run really far. Like when we were playing before any of the patches, you could run really far, and more enemies would just keep following you through the whole thing.
Literally tens of enemies following you.
Yeah.
And that's not if you're in that umbral state where there's even more.
It's double that.
Yeah, so that's good. So they're going to limit how far they pursue from their enemy standpoint, like their spawn point. And then that's going to help to prevent that large crowd issue that we're having.
Yeah.
They're also planning on reducing the number of enemies in problem areas. So that's good too. Because there are certain areas, leading up to that spurned progeny, there are some areas where you're like, okay, I just got to run past this, find that next checkpoint, and there'd be so many guys following you.
Yeah, because you're trekking up a whole city is what it seems like.
And you had to it was mandatory to break into that umbral world.
There's a lot of areas where you had to go there to open just a pathway, or to even pull what do you call it? Little floating platforms to go on and stuff, and you have to pull yourself across again.
Yeah, so that's nice.
There's a lot of that.
Those enemies that they have currently, those are going to remain in the New Game Plus, but for the main base run, we're going to be reducing that.
Makes sense.
And then they're tweaking crowd behavior, so it's going to be less swarming, less ganking, multiple hits from different enemies, and they're going to be less aggressive in general when there's large numbers swarming against you. So I thought those were some good updates. I think that'll help with the quality of life for the game, and yeah, I mean, it does make me want to kind of go back and check it out once these launch, but there's some other stuff we got to get to first. So But yeah, so if you have Lords of the Fallen, that patch should be going live about now. Yeah.
It's a good move.
Good move.
It's a good move. Next, Sony has just dropped another batch of brilliant soundtracks onto Spotify. So these are going to be joining the collection that already includes Bloodborne and Last Guardian. And they're going to be adding OSTs for Gravity Rush, Shadow of the Colossus, Wild Arms. Oh my gosh. It's because of these next two that I'm kind of stuttering my way through.
Yeah, he's getting nervous. I wanted you to read these.
They're adding Popo Lo Croix, or Popo Lo Crow is.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows?
And Popo Rogu.
It's like that's like that new kind of pasta, right? Like it's like a ragu, like the sauce.
Ragu, it's Rogu. Popo
It's Rogu.
Rogu. They're going to be adding for Soul Sacrifice, Fantavision, Echo Chrome.
This next one, you got to read it with the emphasis, because that's actually the title.
They're going to be adding, What Did I Do to Deserve This, Lord? 1 and 2. They're going to be adding White Knight Chronicles 1 and 2. They're going to be adding Patchwork Heroes and Freedom Wars. So if you know any of those games, we know some of them.
Yeah, I know most of them.
If you like, Soul Sacrifice is that game it's like that DMC game that came out kind of recently, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe so. Freedom Wars is a little game that was on the PS Vita.
That game was like cool, but it was kind of grindy.
It was very grindy. It's like, there's like thousands of levels, and
because you have like years on your sentence, like millions of years on your sentence, and you're like doing like missions and quests to like lower your sentence, but then like they would like add more years to your sentence like at certain points in the story.
Yeah,
I didn't get very far in that game.
It was a whole to do.
I remember you got it and you came over, you're like, dude, I got you, we could play. We didn't play much.
I remember playing a lot like that first day. We're like, this is great. We're playing games on our PS Vita together. We'll get back to yeah.
I liked it because it was very, you could like customize your character a lot, and it's like really anime. And
I don't remember the music.
If you like these soundtracks, they're going to be on Spotify. So check them. Shadow of the Colossus is a nice one to add, and Gravity Rush.
Very ambient.
Yeah,
it's very pretty.
Yeah.
Microsoft.
Whoa.
Okay. Microsoft drops Game Pass growth target for CEO compensation. Ooh, you might say, right? This news was brought to you by Games Industry by way of Axios. So, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella's pay targets did not include any targets for Games Pass. This is the first time in 3 years that there's not a target. So, apparently over 95% of Nadella's annual target compensation opportunity is performance-based. Now, of that 95%, 10% is Xbox, like target-based, like performance increases. The largest weighted category for Microsoft's cloud revenue is weighted at 30%. So really incentivizing him to get that whole cloud revenue, bump in, which kind of makes sense considering what they've added to Games Pass and stuff.
Yeah.
I wonder if that falls under Xbox Games Pass, or if that falls under cloud if you're doing like the cloud gaming through Games Pass. I would think cloud.
Because those are like separate whole things that they were working on.
It's like a cloud within the Games Pass, yeah. Xbox content and service revenue was tied to a growth target of 4.4. So this is for Games Pass. Target was 4.4, and they achieved a growth of 0.7% over this last year. So it has been falling more and more over these last 2 years. So I found this interesting because Games Pass are really pushing that. Like they really want this service to be something that's pretty big.
Especially because they've been buying so many developers over the last like 5 to 10 years. And we've definitely been seeing a lot of games rolling out from all of those like acquisitions and stuff. But like all of them are going on Games Pass.
Yeah, like everything's going on Games Pass.
Like even Outer Worlds, like that went to Games Pass immediately. Like Grounded's on Games Pass. So...
And then all the Activision Blizzard stuff's supposed to go. They're saying next year at some point.
I would imagine they're going to like... So like all the Call of Duties and stuff, probably.
Yep.
I would imagine they're probably going to like hold off on new releases for a while.
Yeah, give them like a Games Pass exclusivity kind of deal.
Well, what I mean is like they'll hold it off of Games Pass for a while and then add it on. Because it seems kind of dumb to like put it on Games Pass on release, because that's like one of Activision's like highest grossing franchises by a long shot.
So Games Pass is on PC and Xbox. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it's on certain like TVs and stuff now too, right?
Yeah, I think it's on your TV.
Yeah, it's okay. So it's like on Amazon Fire TV. I want to say like the Samsung, LG TVs. You know, they're starting to pop up in other places. So, and not to mention, you can get it on your phone too, like in your iPad.
You have to go through you have to like go through the website link, and then you can like add it to your home screen and stuff.
It's like a workaround because of Apple's like restrictions.
You could only do cloud gaming through that too, and I think it's the same way on the TVs.
I think that they're trying to get this on as many like devices as possible. Like I think that they're going to try to get that like on PS5. I think they're going to try to get that on Switch. We can see how that turns out over time, but considering like during that Activision, Blizzard, FTC, you know, ordeal, like there was news that they were like Phil Spencer was trying to, he was saying he's like, hey, he'd love to buy Nintendo. I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think they're going to sell.
Nintendo is I think a much wiser company than people give them credit for.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't think they're going to sell in that regard, but I could see a future where they figure out some way to get Games Pass on it.
Yeah, like some sort of deal.
Yeah, in which case if I'm Nadella, right, and I'm looking at that, I'm like, all right, Games Pass, and in particular the cloud service, because the incentivizing is for that cloud revenue, like percentage. A lot of this stuff would be cloud-based. Like if you're going through like that's what's happening with the phones. So imagine like on a Switch, like there was Resident Evil.
Switch already does cloud.
Well, what Resident Evil was it that they were doing the cloud on?
They were doing that with Resident Evil Village, I believe.
Okay.
I know they did that with like Control. And there's a handful of other games that just can't run on the Switch, so they do like some cloud something or other.
Right.
I don't know how well the Nintendo cloud purchases and stuff like that work though, because Xbox has been working on this for like a really long time, and it actually works pretty well. Mm-hmm. You know, especially if you're playing a game like Fable or something that's not super like reactive and like you need to be like really pinpoint accurate. Like the little bit of latency is kind of negligible. But that's also because they've been working on that for so long before they even did like beta testing for it. Whereas even like PlayStation Now, I don't think that's a thing anymore. But when they were doing that, like the latency was pretty bad on that. Like I remember you and I loading up just like Dead Island, because we're like, oh, we've never played this, let's check it out, and we like loaded it up, and it was horrible. Like just turning your character around to like walk through a door and stuff like that was like, it was clumsy, dude.
Yeah, it was pretty. It was like going through molasses.
Yeah,
you know. But yeah, so I guess we'll see what happens with this. You know, I think Xbox is in a pretty interesting spot considering the acquisition. They've spent billions of dollars, you know, acquiring all these different studios.
Yeah, they just bought, because they bought Bethesda for like $7.1 billion, and that was like what, like a few years ago.
Yeah.
And then now they just went through with the whole Activision deal. That was like almost like $70 billion.
Yeah, peanuts. Yeah, Bill Gates.
It's a lot, dude. Yeah. It's, you and I were talking about this yesterday. It's like a lot of growth in a really short time.
Yeah.
So, like, man, like that's obviously Xbox is like a Microsoft company, and Microsoft is like incredibly profitable. But like, I don't know. It's definitely an interesting spot for them to be in, because, you know, especially seeing this like where Games Pass isn't really making what their target goals are and stuff like that. It's interesting to see where all this goes.
Yep.
Next, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. The director says that its efficient development is due to team chemistry. Rebirth has taken less than 4 years to develop thanks to team chemistry. Between 80 and 90% of the team is from Remake, so a lot of those devs are moving over to Rebirth, you know, as you would imagine.
Very nice.
The director said it was quite clear who to go to if we had a certain question or problem that they were trying to solve. He said, we were able to work together as a team to achieve this great flow and tempo of game development.
Very nice.
They also explained that there's going to be tutorials in Rebirth for new players. They want to make sure it's accessible, so if you haven't played Remake, you really should play Remake before this.
Yeah.
Because especially once you beat it, it's a remake, but it's also like kind of not.
Yep.
And so, you know, I'm really excited for this game.
Me
but yeah, there's going to be tutorials for new players. I was watching some gameplay too, and the game's supposed to be like completely open world. And there's going to be like, there's like a climbing mechanic, like not like actually climbing walls and stuff, but like there's areas you can like mantle over rocks and stuff like that. And yeah, everyone who sees it and who's been able to test it and stuff says the game feels great, and they're really excited for it. Zack, a character from the franchise, will be showing up in this game.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. Also, if you played Remake, it's not really a surprise. Also, if you saw the trailer, it's not really a surprise.
That's where it's really not a surprise.
The snowboarding minigame will not be returning. This is due to Rebirth taking place up until the Forgotten Capital. They want to change the image of the game from Gold Saucer having lots of minigames to the game as a whole having a lot of minigames. So they're probably going to be more spread out through the whole thing.
Yeah, Gold Saucer was like that section in the game before where there's just like a whole cacophony of this mini games. Like,
yeah.
So
from the trailer too, and like because I actually haven't like played through. I know it's kind of a travesty.
So if you want to share this with the crowd, it's up to you.
I haven't actually played through the whole original 7.
How do you feel about that?
Oh, dude.
I am going to.
Yeah, so our producers.
I'm going to play through it. I have it on my Switch. I'm going to play it before Rebirth.
Start playing once you wake up at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably when you'll get
but
to
I'm gonna play through that. I'm playing through Danganronpa right now, so I want to like finish that off.
Danganronpas?
Yeah, and then I'm gonna go to 7 probably next. Because I'm like, dude, like, what am I doing? I gotta play this.
Yeah, you haven't played it.
Chocobos for Rebirth will be returning.
This is
and I was watching Maximilian dude talking about it and going over some of the gameplay he had and the trailers and stuff, and there's like a whole thing with the Chocobos.
They drift now.
They drift now, but there's a whole thing with the Chocobos, and I believe it was like this in the original too, where like certain Chocobos could fly, some of them could like go in water, and they were like different colors and stuff like that. And so from what you can see in the trailers and stuff and from gameplay, it seems like that's going to work the same. There's also like multiple Chocobo farms from what I heard. So I might sound like really, really detached because I haven't played that.
You haven't played 7.
I'm like, maybe there was in the original, dude.
Hey, I don't want to spoil it for you, but
listen,
hey.
I'm gonna be playing the original. I know it's a problem, but yeah, that's basically it.
It's an opportunity, Marco.
A lot of little updates. They're starting to really like roll out, or not roll out, but they're starting to get a lot of streamers and a lot of people to like actually get their hands on the game. Like TwitchCon just happened, and there is quite a number of streamers that they brought over to like a hotel suite nearby where they had it all set up. And yeah, really stoked on this one. Loved Remake. I'm gonna play the original before we get to Rebirth.
You got time?
Yeah, I got time.
Yeah.
But yeah. That's about
Good stuff. Good stuff. So moving on in news, I found this little bit kind of interesting and also a little sad. American McGee. For those of you who don't know, American McGee's Alice in Alice Madness, returns. It's like a Alice in Wonderland, but with horror elements. It's scary,
Spooky.
American McGee says that they were, quote, emotionally quite destroyed by EA canceling Alice Asylum. This was to be the sequel to Alice Madness Returns, yeah. And now they can't touch the IP for, quote, the rest of their lives. Okay, so number one, American McGee, that's his name. Okay, I found that really pretty sick, honestly.
It's a dope name.
It's a cool name, and apparently the reason they added that name in the titles because the team believed that it would aid in the marketing. And it did. It made a distinction. You hear like American McGee's Alice, and it's scary, The developers have asked fans to move on from Alice Asylum, the planned sequel. In April 2023, McGee posted to their Patreon explaining that after presenting the team at EA with a design bible full of story bits, artwork, concepts, and more, the publisher declined the proposal, meaning we will not see a third Alice game. I'm pretty sad about this, actually, because I've always really liked the aesthetic of all this whole American McGee Alice. Like I remember as a kid seeing a magazine. I think it was it's like a PC magazine. I can't remember which one it was, but I remember like looking through that, and then I ended up finding because it was at a Borders. If you guys can remember that, it was at a Borders.
Not a thing anymore. Huh?
Not a thing anymore.
Damn.
I was at a Borders and I saw the magazine, and then I like went through like the strategy guides. Did any of you guys used to do that?
Oh yeah.
You go to like the bookstore and you look at like the strategy guides. You're like, oh, what's up with this game? So I opened up the American McGee's Alice, and I remember looking at all of this stuff, and I'm like, dude, this looks so scary. Like, you grow up with like Disney's like Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
Like, this was like a whole other thing.
Yeah, the game's like pretty brutal too. Because I remember you and I starting the second one at some point, and like it was pretty brutal. It was like really dark.
Yeah.
It's
well,
cool.
they're pretty sad about it. You know, they've been wanting to make the third one, and you know, it sounds like they had a lot of ideas, but I guess all got to move on. We got to move on. Unfortunately. So, you know, all good things must end, right?
Speaking of moving on, Insomniac moved on to Spider-Man 2.
Yes.
And Spider-Man 2 had 2.5 million copies sold in 24 hours. And it's become the fastest selling PlayStation Studios game.
It's crazy. Well, congratulations, Insomniac.
Yeah. That's like some ridiculous numbers, dude. In 24 hours?
And you know what's kind of a trip too is seeing that, considering how many amazing games have come out this year so far, and this is coming like towards like the tail end of this year, and people still bought so much of this.
Do you think that's like accounting for all the pre-orders? It's got to be.
I would think so. I'm not sure if this includes the pre-order numbers,
24
but I would
hours,
think so.
And I'm like, I don't know if that's just like from release.
I wonder if that includes just physical or if it includes like digital as well.
I think it probably includes it all, dude.
I mean, that's all in a single day period.
But still, regardless, like 2.5 million copies in 24 hours is like nuts, dude.
I mean, this topped even God of War Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Ragnarok's debut weekly sales was a tally of 5.1 million. And that was in their first week. So let's see if Spider-Man 2 beats that. Yeah. It's on pace to do so.
Well on track to beat that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with good reason, too. We're actually...
Game's very, very good.
Yeah. Hey, you know, why don't we get into that?
Yes.
This is on the games. Now we're... It happens
dude,
every
time, dude.
I feel it.
Holy.
I feel it.
Wow. We're in it.
We're in it now.
All right.
There's no turning back. You know? So we're going to talk about Spider-Man 2. We've been both playing it. You beat it.
I beat it already.
Yeah,
I just blasted through the story.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to platinum it, which kind of... that approach was not... That's not smart.
Just beating the game outright at first.
Because I have, like, so much to do now.
They've added a lot.
Yeah. And there's these little, like tech caches that you can find around the city, but they're, like, everywhere around the city. Like, I got this perk where you can, like, see them on your mini-map. I'm gonna look up a freaking map, like, of the whole thing and where they're at, dude. But, like, I could see it on my mini-map, and that's when it dawned on me. I'm like, oh, these are everywhere.
Yep.
Like, I turned it on, and, like, literally on my mini-map, there's, like, 3 or 4 of them just, like, in the general vicinity, like, on a building, on the bottom,
yep,
in an alley. So I have my work cut out for me if I want to do that, actually.
So Insomniac Games, you know, they've been doing Spider-Man, they've been doing Ratchet and Clank. Yeah. Spider-Man has been like the real big one lately, you know, since they started on this whole Marvel venture. And it's been 5 years since Spider-Man 1, which kind of tripped me out. I'm like, man, that was a
lot longer than I thought.
Yeah, it was like those...
Miles came out...
It was a little while.
2020, right?
Yeah, that launched with the PS5, I remember.
So that was like 2 years after.
Yeah, so, you know, here we are playing Spider-Man 2 finally. So the gameplay,
yes,
it just feels like a big refinement. And I'm not going to say big. I'm going to say like a substantial refinement. You know, because I don't want to make it sound like you're doing anything drastically different.
You're still thwipping.
You're still thwipping around.
You're still flipping. You're still kicking ass.
But you're doing it
names
way faster.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're doing it way faster. It feels... This is the best Spider-Man's felt for a long time.
I'd say, too, like, the whole skill floor and ceiling raised. Like, not dramatically, but it did raise, like, noticeably.
Yeah.
Because the game's hard. You know, it's not like super hard. I played it on like whatever the hardest difficulty is. I don't remember what it was called, but I played on that one. Like there was a few areas where I got stuck for a little while. You know, and so there's a couple boss fights too where I was like, "Fuck, dude." Yeah, I was just kind of stuck in it. Not super hard, like not super long. It's not obviously it's not like playing like a Bloodborne or anything like that, but it's for Spider-Man. It's definitely harder. It's more engaging too.
Yeah. They had the ability to like fly around with those web wings.
Yeah,
I love that. I love that, and then they combine that with the whole, you know, certain areas. There's like wind currents, like these wind tunnels as they call them, and you can get right into those, and you can zip around the city so quick.
yeah,
And with the power of the PS5, the New York's never loaded up quicker.
yeah. Because that was the whole thing. They wanted to make Spider-Man 2018 a lot faster, but part of the problem with that was like the loading for the PS4 was just not like they capped it out, and so as fast as you can go in Spider-Man 1 is basically as fast as the console can go.
Yeah.
This game is like ridiculous, dude. And like especially like the opening, there's a couple things that happen in the opening like spectacle where you could tell they're just like completely showing off like how fast this thing loads. And there was definitely a handful of moments throughout the game too where I'm like, man, you guys are really like, you're really showing off how you guys are like messing with, like, this is like your thing now. You're messing with these like load times. Cause I feel like the first thing they really, really were like messing with that, like load times of the PS5, obviously, cause it was like the first game on the console was Ratchet and Clank. Like,
Yeah, with the tears.
yeah, you're like tearing through and like the spectacle moments in that game too were like pretty nutty with all those portals and stuff that you're opening and you're going to like completely different planets and stuff like that. And it's just like instantly loading it all.
I think a lot of players take it for granted how much of a technical team Insomniac is.
Yeah.
Because Insomniac is the one that's pushing a lot of the tech and the engines and all that on the PS5. You know, and like to your point with Ratchet and Clank, you know, I remember that being a big point in the marketing where they're like, you know, we're not just opening these tears into little areas, like we're loading the whole world behind that.
Yeah, like you look through it, like it's right there.
Yeah. And it's kind of a trip because like in Spider-Man, you know, you see it and you're like, wow, this looks really good. You know, but when you look at it side by side is when you were like, man, that's a big difference. Like
Yeah,
it's almost photorealistic. Like at a glance when you're looking at it, you're like, man, this looks like real.
Yeah, especially when you're just like flipping around the city, because like that's the thing too. Like, it's not just that you're loading like, it's loading a lot faster so you can go faster. It's like when you really pay attention to the little details, like even just like crowd density and like the amount of cars on the street, it's like holy shit, dude. Like they're rendering so much on like the snap of your finger.
There's so much more traffic.
Yeah, it looks like New York traffic. Like
you got people yelling at each other and like, yeah.
I'm walking.
You're like, man, this is so real.
Yeah, dude.
You know,
there's a lot of little hot dog stands all over the place. It's they have properly rendered steam coming off of the hot dogs.
Yeah,
it's crazy. You
can't buy them though.
No.
Spider-Man doesn't eat hot dogs.
No, he eats pizza.
He eats pizza.
But yeah, like the combat and all that, they it seems. Because I'm trying to think of a way to like, because it took me a little bit to kind of even realize what changed.
Yeah,
there's a couple things that are like obvious. So there's a parry.
That's the big one that pops up into my head.
Yeah,
is the parry? I think is like the big thing they changed because there's certain enemies that'll come in, they'll like kind of light up. You know, they light up like yellow. And you're like, okay, I got to parry this attack. And then when they go red, it's like right before they're about to hit you. And instead of like the typical, like, you know, you get your little spidey sense, you know, it kind of buzzes off
it's
or
like
whatever.
Dodge.
And it's like, okay, dodge. You have to parry it. So instead of like hitting circle, you hit your L1.
Yeah, there's attacks you have to parry. And then there's also attacks that you have to like jump out of the way.
Yeah.
And I think they did like for adding all these kinds of mechanics there, like I think they did a really good job at like telegraphing that stuff and like making the cue of your like spidey senses or whatever like legible.
Yeah.
I think it could have been a little bit better.
Yeah, the visual language,
but it is like really good.
It can get just like the tiniest bit unreadable sometimes. Like if you have, there's a couple scenarios where I'm fighting like Craven's gang or whatever, and you've got some people that have like the swords, so they're kind of coming at you and they tend to block some hits. Then there's the people with the shields where you have to like jump under or like slide under them to get behind them. And then there'd be a guy that's like doing like the parryable attacks only, and then some guy shooting from the side. And I'm just seeing like white flash and red flash. I'm like, So sometimes it can get just the tiniest bit unreadable, but it's still very workable, and they give you the room to be able to get past the encounter. That being said, like, I don't think Spider-Man for me is like, okay, I just want to get past the encounter. It's like, I want to do it in style.
Yeah.
I want to like feel cool I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Like, it's always like this little mini goal of mine where I'm like, whenever I get into an encounter, I'm like, I don't want to get hit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and
So for that, that's when it gets a little bit unreadable, but it's not like anything major. It's not anything where you're like, okay, this is going to like ruin the game, or far from it. Like it's more just like a tiny critique, I would say.
yeah, I was literally going to say too, I just wanted to get the number correct, but that was another thing I noticed. This one was more of a subtle one, because like I kind of noticed it when I looked in the menu. I'm like, I think there's more gadgets in the first one.
There's less in this one, yeah.
There's less in this one.
There's 6, right?
No, there's like 4.
Oh, you know,
Because you have your
you're right.
flippies, and you can like do that, but that's not like a gadget.
That's like your web shooter.
Yeah, that's your web shooter, and then there's like 4 other gadgets. There's one that like pulls people together.
When it pushes them away.
There's one that like concusses and pushes people away. I'm trying to remember.
There's like some other,
Yeah,
I
there's one that launches them in the air, and then I think there was like a 4th one that I didn't get. Or I got it and didn't use it or something. But there's a lot less like gadgets, which I started noticing when I was getting into the game more, because I was like fighting and stuff, and there's a lot of stuff I remember doing in the first game to like get through fights that you just can't do. Like those impact webs that you had in the first one, where it just like instantly like web up someone and like launch them back a bit.
Yeah.
Like you could use those in the first game to like, if someone was kind of near a wall but far enough where like you couldn't just punch them into it, you would like impact web them and they would immediately just get stuck on the wall. There's stuff like that that's gone. Like I remember there were some of them too where you could kind of like, because when you aim your web shooters, there's like a little bullet time.
Yeah.
And I remember I used to do that and then like kind of catch my breath and then like use a gadget on someone. I don't think you can really aim them anymore, because they're more of like a hotkey, and he just kind of throws them out and you can choose which direction they go, and they kind of go closer to certain enemies depending on where you're like pushing the thumbstick. But yeah, they don't really like function exactly the same, but it still worked, still felt great. The combat's again like definitely a nice bit harder. I think I need to play more of it too to like really like, because I think overall the changes were really smart, you know, because it's just more engaging. Like the first game, you could 110% just be like mashing square and like get through it.
Yeah.
It would take a while, but you could just do that. And in this one, like you can't really do that, because you've got to parry and you've got to like jump out of the way of certain attacks, and especially in certain boss fights, it's like you've got to like keep these things in mind. Again, it's not like a Bloodborne where it's like you need to learn the enemy. It's not that intensive, but it is definitely harder than the first one.
Yeah. It's like just like a tad more to juggle.
Yeah.
Know? But I think it serves to make it more engaging than it does to just obfuscate the core like mechanics.
Yeah.
Like it does. I found myself, and this is something I told you like after the first couple days, where I still have to beat the game. You know, I've played like a good, I'd say like 20 hours or so of it. Really enjoying it. I find myself getting into a state of flow with this game that I haven't really experienced too much recently, to like recent years. Like this year, if we were to narrow it down to this year, the only other game that I would say was like this for me was Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah.
We're able to get into a flow, and the whole loop is fairly immaculate in my opinion. This felt very similar, where there's always something going on. You know, one thing is like swinging around New York City, like that's a blast. That's always pretty much been a blast. But all of the side missions and stuff to me like felt a lot more engaging. You know, so like there's like and there's a couple. It's not to spoil it for anyone. You know, but we don't want to get too in depth with it. But like stuff like the whole, what is it, like those like tech like missions you have to do, like those scientific like missions where you have to like collect data, or you have to
split the atom.
you have to split the atom. I like that mini game personally. I know that you had.
I just skipped them.
You just skipped them. Yeah, I personally enjoyed that. It felt like a nice little break in the whole thing. There's one where you have to like train these little bees to like hunt out these other kind of
those
bees. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, those are fun.
There's one where you have to like throw up these like oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember what they're called. I can't remember. They're like these little wind tunnel something or others in order to like get like for the company to get info on like how these wind currents are going through in like New York City or whatever. You have to throw those up, and that gets expanded a little bit. That was fun.
Is that a thing you can like do throughout the? Because I thought they only did that like at the beginning.
Was that just the beginning?
I think that was just the beginning.
So you played more than me. Did you encounter that again?
I started checking my map like once I felt like I was getting far into the game. I'm like, okay, so like they had me do that to like open the map up, right? And I'm like, okay, well, let me see where those are, because I should probably just open my whole map. And it was already completely open. So I think you only do those like, I think you do it once, because you do it twice at the beginning. I think you do it once per island.
Okay.
And then
that's it.
The whole map's open, which I think was smart.
That's good, yeah, because a lot of people, this is the third time we're going through New York City, like in Insomniac's New York City, so...
It gives you a reason, the changes of all these little mini games, I think was really smart, because it does give you a reason to like, okay, let me go play 2018, and it is different. Yeah. It is different. Like from combat, it's different. Obviously, thwipping around and all that, like, it's a little bit slower, but it's different. You know, I think that's the biggest thing where it's like it's honestly like a little worse than the first one. You know,
what is it? The
like
side
thwipping,
missions?
like thwipping around.
You think it's a little worse?
Yeah, because it's just a little slower, and there's certain maneuvers you just can't do in the first one. So you kind of
in the first one, yes.
you hit the skill ceiling of like how fast you can get around the city. Like I didn't find it difficult at all in the first game. This one, like, dude, there's certain times where I would hit like a terminal velocity where I'm like, holy crap! Like I have to like really know the city so I can like. Because there's a mechanic where you can like hold a direction around a building,
like circle, and
then you press B, and he'll like thwip right around the corner of it.
You're pushing B. What game system are you playing this on?
Circle.
All right,
press circle, and you like he'll tether the corner of a building, and you'll just go right around the corner of it without like losing speed. And there's certain times where like I would like slingshot myself off of a building or something. And then I'm like going super fast, then I'm like diving, and then I'm coming up, and then like there's like a dead end where I have to make a turn. And I'm like, oh, and I'm like really trying to like get into that like that corner spin so I can keep my speed. And there's a lot of times where I would just like hit a wall. Yeah. And then I just like fall into the floor and all that. And there's no fall damage, which was great. But yeah, there's definitely like, I don't feel like I was going as fast as I possibly could, which is exciting. Because I'm like, neither. Okay, like I can actually get like really good at this. Yeah. Like you can be like a faster, better Spider-Man if you like take your time.
I also like the whole, and I know it was in the first game to a level for sure, but like I didn't utilize it that much. But like when you're going into combat scenarios and like, okay, here's where you're going to be fighting, like kind of scope out what's going on. I had like a lot of fun like aiming like where I wanted to go and like shoot to, and like I would like go up to the ceiling, and then I'd go and like scope out the guys, and then I would like jump down, get them, swing. I would like clear out the battlefield before like I would engage with anyone, and that was like a blast. And like even when you're in combat, you can slow it down and you can get around.
Yeah,
and that felt a lot more tight in this game than it did in the other ones.
So that's something that they kind of. It feels definitely a lot more refined now, but that was a criticism a lot of people had with the 2018 release that they already kind of like addressed a little bit in Miles Morales, where the way stealth worked in the first game was if you got noticed, you were noticed, and like you gotta fight him.
You can't like
you can't
like stealth. Like
yeah, you can't lose attention and like get back into stealth.
Where did Spider-Man go?
Yeah, like you couldn't do that in the first game. And there's another thing too about it where if you were trying to stealth kill like every single person or subdue every single person in a room and you got all of them, it would then initiate the next waves of like the battle. And so you could only really stealth like the first wave of like any scenario. And they kind of addressed that in, I don't want to say kind of, they kind of completely addressed it in Miles Morales, because like you can go like invisible and all that in that game, but that was the first one I noticed where they changed it, where you could like reintegrate into stealth, and then you could like stealth take down like every single person, and like you beat the battle.
Yeah.
And it feels great.
Yeah.
You know, because it was kind of it's a very small like gripe, but it was a little annoying in the first one, and not even annoying. It was just a little like confusing when you like stealth take down everyone, and then like some guys bust through a door and they're like, "Hey, what's going on up here?" And then you have to like actually fight all of them. You know.
Yeah.
But it definitely feels more tight in this one, and obviously this is our first time doing it with Peter, which is tight. I think another thing to mention is in Miles Morales they added all of those like venom attacks.
Yeah.
Like the thunder, like electricity, like attacks that he had and stuff, those little specials. And it's not that Peter has the like lightning, but now he has his own set of like special attacks and stuff he can use too. And he uses like his little spider arms that come out of his back.
And that's something that I wanted to mention too, is that I liked how they added that whole mechanic where it's like, okay, now like your L1 is like your parry button, and your
parry,
yeah, but if you hold it, then you can use the face buttons to do like different like special attacks.
Yeah.
And that works the same thing for Miles, but you can like move those around. Like if you find like a certain kind of like ability that you like more than the other one, you can switch that in, upgrade it. So I like that they give you some like customization with that. Like there's a bit of agency that you have with it, where everyone's not, I would assume, using Spider-Man the same way. And same thing with R1, where R1's like your web shooter, but if you hold it, face buttons, and those are your gadgets. Yeah. It just feels a lot more streamlined. Like it didn't take me too long to get like really comfortable with that.
Yeah.
You know, and like you're able to get into a flow and all that. So I really like that. You know, and then like, you know, you're mentioning like the venom attacks and stuff. Like, well, Venom's in this one.
Yes, Venom is in this one, because like you're mentioning you can swap out attacks. Like for Miles, you could swap out like different lightning attacks, and you kind of learn those throughout the story and all that. And then for Peter, he has like his spider arms that come out, like the little mechanical arms. And then later in the game, you can swap those out for like symbiote attacks, because the symbiote's in the story and in the game. I mean, it's in all the marketing. Like
it's not a spoiler.
Yeah, you get the black suit.
We're not spoiling anything.
You get the black suit. You get the symbiote. And dude, the symbiote feels so good.
I haven't gotten to that yet.
Dude, it feels so good. It's just also like really cool to see, you know? And I there's definitely a level of like crowd control and like fighting big groups of enemies in the first game, but it feels like that's much more of like a staple in this one when you're in like combat. Because I don't remember in the first game there being that many areas aside from like certain like, you know, side mission like crimes and whatever, like the hideouts that you would take out. Like I don't remember in the first game there being this many like combat scenarios where literally like I am completely surrounded by like a ton of enemies.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, like I'm trying to juggle them and this and that. And that's the thing that kind of leads back to the gadgets. Like the gadgets seemed more focused to take out like one person in the first game, or to disrupt like one person. In this one, they're like crowd control tools.
Yeah.
And so I'll have like a bunch of guys on me, and then I throw out something that like brings all of them together or whatever, or concusses them away. It doesn't matter. But those things, I use them mainly like, there's times I use them to like keep a combo going or to take out a few guys or whatever. But I usually found myself using them to like get the heat off of me so I can focus on this guy right here. And then as they're getting up, then I kind of like single in on one guy and I'm like flipping him up, then I punch him up and bring him back down to the ground and stuff.
There's like a
that.
mental flow chart that I have. So for me, I'm like, I'll see people that have like guns and I'm like, all right, you're first.
Yeah, like I use that web like
you like hold R1 and then the
triangle. And you like pull their weapon out and then like whip it back at their face.
Like smack them with it.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
And it was really dope. There's a lot of scenarios where it was like really dope because I'd be like fighting all these guys, and then there'd be like one asshole like like 20 feet away with a freaking like a sniper or whatever, and I would just like pull his weapon, throw it back at him, and then like I don't have to worry about him now. And then I'd focus on these guys, and then I'd see the little target pop up, and I'd just whip and throw it back.
He's just like patting his pockets. Like.
Yeah. Yeah, and that for me was like it was really dope. It feels a lot. It feels really good.
Yeah.
You know, being that I platinumed like Spider-Man 1 and Miles Morales, I'll be honest, there is a huge level of like retraining that I'm like kind of still going through. Cause like, again, it's the whole thing I was mentioning where it's like, it's a lot more like crowd control-y, and there's a lot more like big mobs of enemies at you. And, you know, the way you go about certain fights is genuinely like kind of different.
Yeah.
And like to your point of the flowchart, like the flowchart from this one to like the first one is like pretty different, which is dope. It feels great, and again, it gives you reason to play the original because the original's different, you know. And that was the thing I actually didn't get to mention, but like I think the change of like all the little mini games throughout the world is really smart too, because that also adds to that, where it's like the mini games and the things you're just doing around the city in the first game are different from this one.
Yeah.
You know, and now in this one you've got Miles and Peter, and so there's like. There's some. I don't think there's a lot of them. I think there's just like a couple. It's like you can do like the splitting of the atom with Peter.
I love those.
And then there's like Prowler hideouts.
I love those too.
For Miles.
You become a little detective.
Yeah, but there's like depending on if you're Miles or Peter, there's a couple different activities or like side quests and stuff that like you have to be like a certain Spider-Man for. Yep. You know, which is really dope. You know.
Yeah, I like how they did the upgrades too, where it's, you know, because I was curious how they were going to handle that. And when you look at like your upgrade like tree, like under your skills, they have like a section where it's stuff that upgrades for both Miles and Peter. And so that's like a lot of like the movement stuff and some of like the abilities and stuff that like the whipping and like pulling the web with the webs, like pulling out like the weapon out of someone's hand and stuff, like something they can both do. You know, like latching onto them and then like you're like shaking them, like, that whole bit, like stuff like that. Yeah. And then they've got stuff that's unique to either one of them, which usually is like more their actual like ability focused stuff. So, you know, like the venom attacks for like Miles, and then like I don't know what it's called, but the spider robot thing, like
the spider arms.
The spider arms, yeah, there you go. Spider arms. Yeah, I really like this. Shout out to like using that one gadget where it pulls them all together as Miles. You use that, and then you jump up and like smash down and hit them all at the same time. Love doing that. It's so much fun. Dope. Yeah, and you know, you mentioned like, you know, the reasons why you would want to play, like still go back to 2018 Spider-Man and Miles Morales. I mean, I think the biggest reason's the story. You know, yeah. And Insomniac, they're doing a lot of stuff with this where I was like, wow, like this is really engaging, you know, because like they have its moments where you're like, oh, you're walking through a home and stuff, you know, like, you know, oh, let's go visit Aunt May's home, whatever, and let's go check some stuff out, whatever. I'm like, all right, that's cool, like that's good, you know, and it plays into a lot of the stuff that's going on in the world, but all of this is building off of Miles Morales, which is building off of 2018 Spider-Man. And so, like, that's the biggest reason to go back still. Like, those games have great stories.
Yeah, and I think it's important to, like, play the first one in Miles.
Yeah.
For story, because there's actually a lot that they kind of just... Like, if you're going straight to Spider-Man 2, there is, like, a pretty large handful of things that, like, you're just kind of being thrown into that they go over in the first games. Or the first game in Miles.
But they also make it in a way that if you were to jump into just 2... You'll find your footing. You'll find your footing. I think a big part of that... Yeah, more question marks.
Yeah, I think a big part of that is because it's like... I mean, it's Spider-Man.
Yeah. I mean, how many... we've gone through so much Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's like... It's arguably one of, like, the most adapted freaking, like, superheroes, dude.
Yeah. Rightfully so, too. He's cool.
Yeah, so, like... It's Spider-Man. Like, there's... The shocks in the story... Because we were listening to like Colin Moriarty talk about this game, and I agree with him when he was talking about like there wasn't really anything that's gonna surprise you, like narratively speaking.
Yeah.
Because it's Spider-Man, you know,
yeah,
like the characters.
We've seen these characters.
Yeah, they all kind of fit their positions. You know, I think a good example too is like you watch like Into the Spider-Verse or like Across the Spider-Verse or whatever, the like Miles Morales movies. And it's like not necessarily like shocking the things that happen, but it's just like really interesting, and it is a surprise how they end up playing out. It's like a little different.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of like that, if not like even like brought down a few notches. It's not to say there isn't any surprises in the game. There are surprises in the game, but they're different from like actual narrative surprises. It's more just like for me, there was like a handful of things that I was just like, wow, like they're doing this now. Like, whoa, okay, this is freaking tight, dude. And I was just like, I had a smile on my face like the entire time playing the game, you know. And like, I think a good thing to point out too with the story is like, the acting is really good.
Yeah.
You know, the acting is really good. The dialogue is very intriguing, and it's like, there's a particular like sauce that they found with these games, and this is more of it, and it's more refined and it's more experienced, and I feel like it's, I don't know if I want to say it's like more than the first game, like there's like it's like longer or anything, because it feels about the same length. But yeah, it's just I don't know. It's really good, honestly.
It's really how much you want to spend on like the side stuff, you know, because the side stuff like did you do the Black Cat mission?
In the story?
Was that part of the story, or was that a side mission? Because I thought that was a side mission when I did that. Because there was those Black Cat.
There's 100% a Black Cat mission in the story.
Okay. So I did a mission. I'm not sure if it was in the story or if it was a side mission, but I like the way that built out the story, and it built out all of New York in this Spider-Man 2 release. And I'm surmising that there's a lot more of that going on than we realize. And so, like, you're someone who didn't play, like, a lot of the side missions. You kind of blasted through the story, correct?
Yeah. I did a little bit of the side missions, and the thing I noticed with that was the first game, the side missions seemed just like extra things to do.
Yeah,
this game, there's like actually little like side mission like stories.
So I'll give you another example. Is, you know, there's a section where there's like, you know, these fireworks just going off, and like I was playing as Miles, and I'm like, you know, swinging around, you know, as you do, and then there's the fireworks. He's like, oh, that's something that I should check out. Like that shouldn't be happening in broad daylight in New York. Like that's not good. And so I ended up going to go like see these like two dudes that were like on top of a building just like shooting off fireworks. And in talking with them, they're like, you know, and this is slight spoilers for people, you know, so if you don't want to know about this, you know, cover your ears or fast forward like 15 seconds or something. But like basically like they're like a friend of theirs or their brother or whatever that passed away, like loved shooting off fireworks, so they were doing that. And that ended up becoming more than just like telling them to stop shooting off fireworks. Like, I'm not going to spoil what happens, but like it was a nice little thing that occurred where I'm like, okay, this is cool. Like, I'm not only helping people, but like I'm finding out these new things. Like, it's taking me to different places, and it's really smart the way that they have the way that all this plays out, because it's like, oh, it takes you to a new spot in like New York. Then you're like, okay, from there, let me like check out this other stuff, because as you know, like you're always getting calls from like Genki and like Mary Jane about all these different things that are going on. So I just really like the way it all plays out. Yeah. But that being said, I have a lot more to play. I'm more taking my time with it. Like, I'm kind of doing more of the, let me play some more of the side stuff, and let me delve into it more besides just playing just the story missions, because I'm honestly just having a lot of fun, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, kind of bringing it towards the end of our discussion about this, you know, Miles versus Peter. Who do you like more? Who are you playing as more?
I don't think I really... I'll probably do it more while I'm doing side stuff, because you kind of have to.
Yeah.
I didn't find myself, like, swapping between them that much. So I kind of just played whoever had me throughout the game.
Like, for the mission?
Yeah, because what I was curious about was, I'm like, initially, and I tested this pretty early on, I was like, is this going to be like GTA, where I can, like, swap between them, and then, like, I can, like, keep swapping and bringing them to like one point, and then like get them to meet. Yeah, I don't think you can. And
but you can encounter them. So I saw online that you can encounter them like in the wild, like the other Spider-Man, and like they'll do like the meme where they're like pointing at each other. They're like, "Hey, like it's you," you know.
So what
I thought that was cool.
what had happened to me was there was like it was actually really dope. What happened to me was there was like a little like crime. I think it's because I'm not doing much side stuff that I didn't have that stuff happen. I was doing like I saw a crime and I'm like, why not? Let me take care of this crime because I weirdly like I feel like kind of morally obligated. I'm like, I gotta help these people.
Yes, in Starfield you steal, and this one you help crime.
I have to.
You have to.
Yeah, I have to. I'm a very morally diverse person. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I saw a crime. I went to go take care of it, and as soon as I started fighting, I just heard like Miles, and then he came in, and then we were both like fighting this crime. And then after he was like, all right, that was great, Peter. And then I went to go like interact with him, and like one of them went to go handshake, the other one went for a fist, and then they like swapped. And then at the end they ended up just like hugging each other, and then like Miles jumped off and like flipped away. It was actually like really dope because I didn't expect that. I was like, whoa, like Miles is here.
You're like, hey, that's cool.
Yeah, I think there's even a voice line where he's like, yeah, I was just in the air. I was already coming to this. Like, you know, good to run into you, bud. And then he just like left.
That's sweet.
It was really dope. You know, there's a lot of things in the game that they do like that are just like, they're like little chef's kiss kind of moments, you know, where you're like, wow, like you guys really did this well, you know. And for me with the side missions, like seeing where they're going with this, like I would love to see them kind of do almost like what was it, Gotham Knight? What was that? Arkham Knight. That's what it was. Where like, because they already have you like feeling like Spider-Man, like since the first game. Like you're in the game, you're like, I'm Spider-Man.
Yeah.
The Arkham games, you felt like Batman going through like a Batman comic. Like if you're reading like a particular like you know, like what was it called? It's like something like The Killing Joke or whatever, or like Long Halloween. It felt like you're like playing through one of those comics, right? In the first two games. And the third one, it felt like you were playing through a story, but you're Batman, and there was also little crimes through the city, and then the side missions were like whole villain like arcs that you would go through. And I would love to see them do that with like the third one. You know, that's obviously getting really ahead, but it's just a little tidbit because I think that'd be really dope.
So you got a couple last questions and we'll wrap this up. But you know, what's your favorite thing about it?
Honestly, probably just how, and it's technical. We talked about that quite a bit earlier, but I think it's really like just the speed of it all, dude. Like flipping around, like again, like the few times I like got to terminal velocity, it felt like, and then I like hit a wall. I was like, I hit a wall not because the game can't go faster. It's because I literally like didn't perform properly, and I hit a wall, and so like now my brain's going where I'm like, oh shit, so I can go faster than that. And I could have been like super fast. And the thing too is you'll see like the number, like the meters that you have until a certain distance.
And so like much faster.
Yeah, dude, you'll see like the hundreds like just going down, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm going so fast right now, dude. And it just feels so good. But like I'm genuinely just not good enough to like to do that. You know, like the skill ceiling and floor, like it feels noticeably raised in every regard, but I think it feels most raised in the like movement around the city. You know, because and I don't think I have all of the like traversal like abilities yet either. Like I mainly poured into just like the dual like skills like for both of them, and then I kind of poured into like each one individually when I felt like I needed to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't have like all of the skills to like maximize my speed yet either.
You just want to go fast.
I just want to go fast, dude, and because it feels so good.
Yeah, I mean, kind of keeping in line with that, you know, and this is way more specific, but the thing that they added to it that I love is that whole like to get your swing started, you can like shoot like two and then like slingshot yourself like way out. Oh man, I love that because I'm like. That's one of the things. You're like the building up of speed, or like no, you can get started really fast, you know. Yeah, and then they add the stuff like when you're gliding, you can do like the abilities in the air too, where it like jolts you up or forward.
Have you found those
so much
super
fun.
slingshot points on buildings?
No, not yet.
There's little like pads with two poles that are like they bend. They're like, you know, they bend, but they're super slingshot like catapults. And so when you do your slingshot on that, it like pulls those poles back, and it launches you so fast. I'd love to see you be able to slingshot like up a building. That'd be tight.
They got you like flagpoles.
No, like just because you like you said, you
that
can
are
be
like jutting out the wrong way.
no, you can do that like in the streets and stuff, but like because I always have it in my head from like the first Amazing Spider-Man movie because he does that at some point, and I'm like, that's so tight, dude. I'm like, I'd just love to do that.
No, you can.
No, you can't.
Oh, you mean like going up the
I
thing?
mean, like
Oh, I
when
know
you're
what
running
talking
up
about.
the building, because you like hold the trigger, like running up, and you can press X, and he kind of like pulls himself a little bit. But I want to be able to like hold that and like stop, and then you just see him like pulling all the tension, and then it like launches him straight up. Like that'd be tight.
That would be cool.
That'd be really tight. I don't know, but
And the other question I hear is a thing you'd like to see added. So you mentioned the side quests. You
yeah,
know?
I'd love to see that.
Yeah,
That'd be
I'm
dope.
right there with you, and I'm gonna agree with you on that. Like have the main story, but then actually like really have some like pretty involved like little storylines for the side missions.
I'd love to see more suits also.
Which they added a lot of suits.
They had a lot of suits, but a lot of them were from the first game or Miles. And that's not a downside because they have all the different like colorizations you can choose now.
Yeah.
But I just want more suits, dude. I love the suits.
I'll do you a favor. I think I'd like to see them at those vertical tent poles. And those poles that you can
It's just like poles sticking out of buildings,
they're like
dude.
completely
They make no
architecturally
sense.
unsound. It makes no sense why they're there.
But they work.
I want them to add that for you. So verdict. What would you say?
I mean, dude, I think this is obviously like a must play. Like if you have a PS5, if you have any next gen console, there's not a lot of like, not a lot of next gen games that have been coming out this generation.
I don't really know.
But if you have PS5, you gotta play this. This is great.
Yeah.
Even if you don't stick with it all the way, like check it out, start it, play it a bit. Because it's great, dude. The story's great. The spectacle moments are honestly like jaw-dropping at times.
Yeah.
And like if you don't like the whole, just in between parts of the game, like I mean, I did it. Like you can just speed through the story. You don't really have to do much of that. And so you just keep seeing all the like really cool stuff. But yeah, must play.
Yeah, and I would agree. Must play.
I give 2 thumbs up.
2 thumbs up. Definitely play it. It is, like you said, like, even if you don't finish it, it is so much fun to play as Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I think this is like easily like one of the better games to come out this year.
Yeah. Yeah, it's way up there.
So it's up there with the Final Fantasy 16 and like a Baldur's Gate. For different reasons. Which
Very
is nice.
different reasons, but it's fantastic.
So yeah, so if you have a PS5, check it out.
Yeah.
So now to bring it to a close, this is like when you warm down on your cardio. What you been up to?
Well, I kind of mentioned it earlier. I've been playing Danganronpa. I'm probably going to go to Final Fantasy VII next. Yeah.
It's very nice.
I'm still working on Hero of Ages also. I'm just chipping away.
Yeah, you're a chipper.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, well, me, I've been, just doing a lot more drawing. Same as last week. Been getting back in, and I got to pick up my guitar again. So get back to that and
That you do.
get back to the creative works, as it were. Let us not consume only, but let us also create. So I've been keeping that in mind, and pretty stoked on this little thing that we got going on this week. You, me, and our producer over there. Starting this 5 a.m. club. Now it's on video. It's on recording. It's out there. 5 a.m.
I woke up late, walked into the room to freaking 5 a.m. club, guys.
Yeah, 5 a.m. club, get it done. The sun comes up and you already beat it. You're like, I was up before you, dude. So I'm looking forward to that. Hitting that next level of carpe diem. So yeah, gonna be playing some other stuff for next week.
Yep.
Looking forward to that. We'll be waking up at 5 a.m. But we'll also be playing some other stuff, Trying to think of a way to segue that one. It's Alan Wake, guys.
It's Alan Wake.
It's Alan Wake.
That game's getting really good reviews.
Hey, you know what? As far as I'm concerned, it hasn't been reviewed yet.
I think I'm going to play the remaster of the first one this weekend.
You can do the same thing with that and just blast through the story. Literally, because like certain missions will end and you like have to wait a little bit. Just flip around for like a couple minutes and it'll pop up.
Okay.
That's great.
Excellent. All right, well, this has been Two Souls. We appreciate your patronage, your time, your attention. I mean, I speak for all three of us. We love you. And, like, comment, and subscribe. Check out our socials. Where can they find us?
You can find us on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at Two Souls Podcast.
Yeah. And if they wanted to, let's say they wanted to listen to it while they're going for a run, they were sitting down, trying to block out the noise.
Oh, we're on all streaming services. All podcast services.
There it is.
You find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, right?
Google. Find us on Google.
You can find us on Google.
And you're probably watching this on YouTube right now, so, hit the bell icon.
If you're not watching us on YouTube and you're listening to us on all of the other things, you can watch us on YouTube at Two Souls Podcast.
See some pretty amazing edits.
The edits are some of the finest in the business, I'd like to say.
Yeah, I would too. I'd say this much is that the video podcast is, audio podcast obviously is a 10 out of 10. Give us a good rating. But like on YouTube, it's very engaging. That's the feedback we've been getting. So, we're very humbled, very thankful. Until next week, episode 4. Have a good weekend.